All right, so what we're looking at today in this lesson is solving polynomial equations. Now, the best part about solving polynomial equations is that the first step is going to be to factor, and which a lot of you, or most of you, were very good at on the CAT, is solving polynomial equations or factoring the polynomial equations. And so what we're going to end up is using the factor theorem to solve polynomial equations. Now, there's one other note of interest is when you're solving any polynomial equation, you must have a zero on one side of the equation. That's a must. Before you even start, got to have a zero over here. All right. And that is something that I know I go through in grade 11 and in grade 10 is it's all about this, what's called the zero product property, but we're not going to get into that. The bottom line is here, you have to have a zero on one side of the equation. Now, using the factor theorem, I have to find a factor of this particular polynomial. And so the first thing I'm going to do, and I've always said this, is I'm going to use small numbers like 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -3. So I guess over on the side here, I'm going to try f of 1. Start out. So I get 1 cubed. Well, that would be 1. 1 squared is 1. Then it times -4. That's a -4. 1 times -7 is -7. And then plus 10. And so if I take 1 -4 -7 plus 10, I actually do get 0. All right. So that means, therefore, x minus 1 is a factor. Not x plus 1, x minus 1. Because when you substitute that 1 in, that is the number that I can substitute in for x that makes this thing 0. All right, so I got lucky there on the first one. So I know that x minus 1 is a factor, so I'm going to take my polynomial. So this is all the same steps that we looked at before in factoring polynomials, because like I said, that's the first step, is factoring the polynomial. So we have x cubed minus 4x squared minus 7x plus 10. And of course, x minus 1 is the factor I found. There is other factors, and that's something on your CAT, where that number 10, the last question, some of you found different factors first. So your answers will look different than mine. All right, even though it's not wrong, you just started with a different factor. All right, so doing a little polynomial division. How do I get from x to x cubed? Well, I have to times by x squared. So then I go x squared times x is x cubed. All right, then x squared times -1 is -x squared. All right, and of course our next step here is to subtract. Big red symbol there. All right, so x cubed minus x cubed, they're gone. Minus 4x squared minus minus. That's a plus, so then it's going to be minus 3x squared. All right, and of course I have to drop down my -7x and my positive 10. All right, now next step, how do I get from x to -3x squared? I multiply by -3x. So -3x times x is -3x squared. I'm going to do the other one here. -3x times -1 is a positive 3x. And here we go. Minus sign. All right, so I subtract those two terms. They are the same, so they're gone. But then I get -7x minus -3x. Minus 3x. So -7x minus 3x is -10x. Plus 10. All right, last one, because we're going to get a number here. Now, x, what do I multiply x by to get to -10x? Well, -10. So -10 times x is -10x. And -10 times -1 is a positive 10. Now, not that I have to do this part, because I already proved I'm going to have a 0 remainder. But as you can see, they line up. And of course, I do get a 0 remainder. All right, so now here's what we've got. I've got that this polynomial right now is x minus 1 times our quadratic up there, which is x squared minus 3x minus 10. Again, this polynomial has not yet been fully factored. I've got my quadratic, which I'm going to factor over here. All right, so again, the first term goes in the top left. Last term goes in the top right. X and x will give me x squared. Two numbers that give me negative 10. I'll go with, 5 and negative 2. All right, so I cross multiply, and I've got 5x minus 2x. That's a positive 3x. I'm looking for a negative 3x, so I'm just going to switch the signs here. There, now I've got minus 5x plus 2x. That gives me negative 3x. So now I've got my equation fully factored. I've got x minus 1 times the x minus 5 times the x plus 2. Now, something I didn't add in there. It says solve, and I have an equal sign. So this is equal to 0, and this part is equal to 0. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there's this property called the zero product property. Sounds really complicated, but all it means is product refers to multiplying things. So if you have some things that are multiplied by each other and they equal 0, one of them has to equal 0, or two of them could equal 0, or three of them could equal 0, or they could all equal 0 together. All right, and so all we do is we're going to solve each piece. This is just the extra step that we're doing today. And we're setting each factor equal to 0. So because there is 3 factors, we're going to get 3 answers. Now, sometimes your answers could be the same, but not in this case, because if I solve the factor number 1 here, I bring the negative 1 over to the other side. My answer is 1. I bring the negative 5 over to the other side for the second factor. My answer is 5. And in the third factor, I'm going to bring that positive 2 over to the other side. And I get a negative 2. Those are 3 answers. Now, a couple of things, maybe just one thing, is that first of all, we've got 3 answers. When you have a degree 3 polynomial, you can have at most 3 answers. When you have a degree 5 polynomial, you can have at most 5 answers. Sometimes the answers will be the same, which means you've got less answers, that's all. But in this case, we had a degree 3 polynomial, and we end up getting our 3 answers because we had 3 factors. All right, but again, just one extra step on what we did from the last part of this unit. Instead of just factoring, we're solving. Any questions at all? Just going to check the chat before I do my big turn here. All right. Oh, don't fall over. There we go. All right. All right, so example 2. All right, so example 2 says solve. And my polynomial here is 2x cubed plus 3x squared equals 11x plus 6. All right. Now, again, the first thing we have to do is I can't even try to factor this yet because I don't have a 0 on one side of the equation. So I'm going to move this 11x and this 6 over to the other side so that there's nothing on the right-hand side. There's a 0. All right, so I get 2x cubed plus 3x squared. I move the 11x over so it changes sides, it changes sign. And then I move the 6 over. So same thing. Now it's a minus 6 equals 0. There, now I'm back to where the start of, let's say, our first example. I have my polynomial. It's in the right, everything's written in the right order. Degree 3, degree 2, degree 1 number. And it equals 0. Now it's time to do the factor theorem. Find a factor. So again, I'm going to use 1. Try 1 out here first. And so let's see here. F of 1. Let's see. Cube. 1 cubed times 2 is 2. 1 squared times 3 is 3. Minus 11 times 1 is minus 11. Minus 6. What we got there? Minus 17. Oh, yeah, minus 12. That's not a factor. That's not going to work. All right. So let's try 2 then. Make sure I got my calculator. I'm going to do good. All right. So let's see here. 2 cubed is 8. Times 2 is 16. 2 squared is 4 times 3 is 12. Okay. Minus 11 times 2 is minus 22. And then minus 6. And this time we get 16 plus 12 is 28. Minus 22 is 6. Minus 6, hey, we got a 0. 0 remainder. So that means, therefore, x minus 2 is a factor. Again, that's using the factor theorem. All right, so here we go. Time to divide my polynomials here. So I got 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 11x minus 6. And again, I'm going to divide that by x minus 2. All right, so to get from x to 2x cubed, I'm going to have to multiply by 2x squared. 2x squared times x is 2x cubed. That's why we did it. And 2x squared times minus 2 is we get a minus 4x squared. Whew. All right, let's subtract them. All right, so 2x cubed minus 2x cubed, gone. 3x squared minus minus. So we get the minus minus. So that means plus, right? So I've got 3x squared plus 4x squared. That's 7x squared. I got to drop down these two. So I got a minus 11x and a minus 6. All right, next one. To get from x to 7x squared, I'm going to multiply by a 7x. All right, so 7x times x is 7x squared. 7x times minus 2, that's going to give me a minus 14x. All right. There we go. Subtract. Well, 7x squared minus 7x squared, they're gone. But then I got the minus 11x, and then I got the minus minus thing going on again, so that's plus. So minus 11x plus 14x is 3x. Minus 6. All right, last one. X times, or how do I get from x to 3x? I'm going to times by 3. All right, now I could stop here, but I always go to make sure I didn't mess up the math, make sure I do get a 0 remainder. Because if you don't get a 0 remainder, it means you messed something up. All right, so I'm going to check it out. So 3 times x is 3x. Good, that matches. And 3 times negative 2 is minus 6. All right, when I subtract them, yeah, I get my 0 remainder. All right, didn't mess that part up. All right, so here's where we're at now in terms of our factoring. I have my factor there, the x minus 2, times my polynomial on top, or the quadratic, I should say, on top, specifically. So I get 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. And again, that's equal to 0 because we're solving. We're not just factoring here. But I do have to factor it fully. So there's my quadratic. All right, so again, I'm going to put my first term in the top left, the 2x squared. Next term, 3. All right, so, well, I know two numbers to give me 3, multiplying. 3 and 1. Those are the only ones. 2x squared. I'm going to go with 2x and x. All right, let's see our crossing here. 2x plus 3x. That ain't working. Okay, got. I'm going to switch this time. These two numbers. Let's put a 1 up here and 3 here. Now I have 6x plus 1x. There, that gives me the 7x. All right, so now I've got my equation, x minus 2. All right, now I've factored my quadratic, so I have one factor here is x plus 3, and the other one is the 2x plus 1, and again, it's equal to 0. All right, so now it's fully factored. To put the extra equals 0 in there, all I have to do is solve the 3 different pieces now. All right, so I've got this piece, x minus 2 equals 0. I have my second piece, which is the x plus 3 equals 0. And then the last piece here, the 2x plus 1 equals 0. All right, so I move the negative 2 over to the other side. So one of my answers is x equals 2. I move the positive 3 over to the other side. So it's going to be, the other answer is going to be x equals negative 3. All right, then my last answer, well, it looks like I got to do a little bit more work for it. Move the 1 over to the other side, so I get 2x equals negative 1. That's not done yet because I have to get x by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And it looks like my other answer is x equals negative 1/2. And again, this is a case where we had a degree 3 polynomial, and we got 3 different answers. X equals 2, x equals negative 3, and x equals negative 1/2. Any questions there at all? Let's grab another black marker here. All right, so we're going to go to our third example. Number 3. Ooh, okay. All right, so we're going to step it up here. So here we go, example number 3. We've got, let's see here. Well, I got to smooth this down a little bit. Get the water off. All right. So example number 3 is this. We've got 2x to the 4th plus 5x cubed. Let's see here. Minus 5x squared. Minus 20x. Minus 12. Equals 0. All right. Now, what we're looking at here is this time, how this one's a little bit different. Why I say we're stepping it up. This is a degree 4 polynomial. All right. Now, that means, well, we'll get to what that means, but we do, first of all, have a 0 on one side of our equation. That's a must. So we already got that happening for us. So now what I need to do, again, is use the factor theorem and figure out what one of the factors is. Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit here and tell you that when I plugged a 2 in to my equation, I did get a 0. All right, so 2 worked, and therefore x minus 2 is a factor. All right, so x minus 2 is a factor. So I'm going to take this polynomial, this great big polynomial here. It also means degree 4, we're probably going to get 4 answers. All right, so I got my 2x to the power of 4 plus 5x cubed minus 5x squared minus 20x minus 12. And I'm going to have to divide that by our factor, which is the x minus 2. All right, so here we go. Getting from x to 2x to the fourth, I would multiply by 2x cubed. All right, so then I have a 2x to the power of 4 here. 2x cubed times negative 2 is minus 4x cubed. All right, so then I'm going to subtract. All right, so the first two, they're gone. Then I get 5x cubed minus minus, so that's a plus, right? So I get 9x cubed. All right, then I drop down my other ones here, so I get still that minus 5x squared minus 20x minus 12. All right, getting from x to 9x cubed, I'm going to have to multiply by 9x squared. All right, so 9x squared times x, 9x cubed. 9x squared times negative 2 is minus 18x squared. All right, so subtract again. Well, those 9x cubes are gone. Then I get this minus minus thing going on. So I got minus 5x squared plus 18x squared. That's a 13x squared. All right, bring down the minus 20x. And bring down the minus 12. All right, still going along here. Let's see here. How do I get from x to 13x squared? Times by 13x. All right, so I'm going to have a 13x squared there. 13x times a negative 2, that's a minus 26x. All right, subtract. 13x squareds are gone. Now I got minus 20x, but again, I got this double negative here, so it's adding. And so I'm going to have a positive 6x. And bring down that minus 12. There it is. All right, how do I get from x to 6x? I'm going to multiply by 6. All right, and I could stop there, but again, I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. Make sure I get my zero remainder. Supposed to. All right, so 6 times 6x. Yeah, that matches up. And then 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. And of course, I subtract those. I get my zero remainder, which means I didn't mess up. Now, that means here's where we're at. I have my function, and now I can write it as, or my equation, I should say, x minus 2 times our polynomial up here, 2x cubed plus 9x squared plus 13x plus 6 equals 0. All right, so try to fix the lighting a bit there. There we go. Now, is that lighting better that I did that? Did I turn that light off? I don't know if how you guys. Yes, it is. Okay, thank you. All right, now here's the, because it's weird. Again, it's like camera on a TV. I'm like sitting in a dark room right now, but the camera pulls in more light than there actually is. All right, now here's the problem. In the last questions, we had a quadratic here, right? This time we have a cubic. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do some polynomial division all over again. So I'm going to get rid of this. I don't need this now. But I am going to have to do more polynomial division to get down to that quadratic. All right, so on that note, so I have now my 2x cubed plus 9x squared plus 13x plus 6. So there it is, 2x cubed. I got to factor this, fully factor it, plus 9x squared plus 13x plus 6. Now I need to have a factor of it. So again, I'm going to have to use the factor theorem to figure out what to divide this polynomial by. And so I guess I could try, well, I'm going to try -1 because I'm looking at my answers. All right, so I'm going to plug in a -1 here to this polynomial just over on the side. So let's see here. I'll call this h of x right here. Our original function I'll call h or f of x. The next letter is h of x. So I'll try h of -1. All right, so x -1 cubed is -1 times 2 is -2. -1 squared is 1. Then times by 9 is +9. 13 times -1 is -13. And then add 6. And let's see here. -2 plus 9 is +7. -13 is -6. Add 6. We get a 0. So that means, because I put in a -1 into the equation, that means that x plus 1 is a factor. Again, when you put in -1 into the x here, that makes this part 0. So now that I've got the factor, I'm going to do polynomial division once again. All right, so how do I get from x to 2x cubed? I multiply by 2x squared. All right, so now I've got 2x squared times x is 2x cubed. 2x squared times 1 is 2x squared. All right, then I subtract them. All right, so I have 2x cubed minus 2x cubed. They're gone. 9x squared minus 2x squared is 7x squared. All right, then I drop down my 13x and my 6. All right, how do I get from x to 7x squared? Well, I multiply by 7x. 7x times 7x times x is 7x squared. 7x times 1 is 7x. All right, so now I'm going to subtract them. 7x squareds, they're gone. 13x minus 7x is 6x. And I drop down this 6. +6. All right, so now I found out it's a factor and I want this number, but let's find out. So from x to 6x, I'm going to multiply by 6. Now again, I could stop there, but I want to make sure I'm doing it right. So I want to make sure I'm getting a 0 remainder here. So 6 times x is 6x. So that matches, good. 6 times 1 is 6. There we go. So there's my 0 remainder. All right, so where does that get us, right? Back over here. So I had my x minus 2 as a factor. I found this other factor, which is an x plus 1. And now the leftover quadratic here we have is 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. And again, this whole polynomial is equal to 0. Now we have where we normally get to with the quadratic. So again, I'm going to factor my quadratic. All right, so again, my first term goes in the top left corner. So that's 2x squared. Terrible. My last term here goes in the top right corner. That's a 6. All right, so two numbers give me 2x squared. Multiply. I'm going to go with 2x and x and 6. I don't know. Let's go with 1 and 6. See what happens. Let's see. Cross multiply here. I get 12x plus 1x. That's 13x. That's not even close to 7x. Let's see here. Switch the numbers. 6 and 1. 2x plus 6x. That's 8x. That's close. So it can't even be these numbers. So I'll get rid of 6 and 1. Let's try 3 and 2. 4x plus 3x. Ah, that's my 7x. Perfect. All right, took me a couple there. Again, that can happen. All right, so now I factor my quadratic. So I have x minus 2 is one factor. X plus 1 is another factor. Then we just found out we have 2x plus 3 is a factor. And x plus 2 is a factor. And again, this is equal to 0. All right, so now I have 4 factors to solve. I have my x minus 2 equals 0. I have my x plus 1 equals 0. I have my 2x plus 3 equals 0. And then lastly, I have my x plus 2 equals 0. All right, so there's my 4 equations to solve. All right, and the first one here, I bring the negative 2 over to the other side. X equals 2. Bring the 1 over to the other side. I get x equals negative 1. The third one, it's going to take me a little bit more work. But let's see here. Bring the 3 over to the other side. So I have 2x is equal to negative 3. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And I get x is equal to negative 3 over 2. All right. And then the last piece, x plus 2. I bring the 2 over to the other side. And I get x equals negative 2. And so again, and that's final answers. We got our 4 answers because again, this time we dealt with a degree 4. And so we get 1, 2, 3, 4 answers. So again, the degree of your polynomial tells you the maximum number of answers you can get. All right, so there we go. That is solving polynomial equations. Again, the best part is it's building off of what we did before in factoring the polynomials, where we have to use the factor theorem, get it down to factor, then a quadratic or factor quadratic or however many factors there are. Then you get it down to the quadratic. And then we can do the quadratic factoring. And then again, solving each piece, setting it equal to 0 and figuring out what values would make that, well, each piece equal to 0.